Of Hurricane Florence in just a moment, but first, former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort is close to reaching a plea deal to avoid a second trial. Manafort was awaiting a second federal trial on charges of fraud and for failing to register as a foreign agent. Now, no further details of his plea deal have yet been released. In a separate trial last month, you may remember, Manafort was found guilty on 8 counts, including tax and bank fraud. He's facing a maximum of 80 years in prison based on those charges. Meanwhile, President Trump says the death toll in Puerto Rico from Hurricane Maria isn't accurate. The president tweeted, quote, 3,000 people did not die in the 2 hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico. And he went on to say that Democrats made up that number to make him look bad. A study commissioned by the Puerto Rican government was released last month, finding that nearly 3,000 people died in Hurricane Maria's aftermath. The Puerto Rican government had previously placed the death toll at 64, but raised the number following the report's release. Joining me now from Washington is Jeff Mason. He's a White House correspondent for Reuters. Jeff, what do you make of why the president is even deciding to come out and dispute these reports now?
Well, it's hard to explain, and I think probably one of the reasons is as he's going into this sort of weekend and the next few days of this terrible storm that's coming, he's been asked about Puerto Rico, and he's frustrated about the coverage that he believes is unfair. He believes that the response by the federal government to the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico was excellent, and it's just hard for him to admit or to say when something didn't go very well. But this tweet goes beyond having a hard time saying this didn't go well and blames the Democrats for figures that came out of a university study suggesting that some 3,000 people died in Puerto Rico as a result of that horrible storm.
The New York Times' Maggie Haberman tweeted that White House aides must be screaming into their pillows, reacting to President Trump's tweets. And we see this cycle, don't we, where the president will tweet something controversial, White House staff will do whatever they can to try and clean it up. What has the White House done to try and sanitize the president's statement?
Well, for most of the day, not very much. And speaking to White House officials earlier in the day, you could just tell that there was a sense of exasperation with the fact that the president had made this tweet at a time when the White House is trying to focus on the upcoming hurricane and encouraging people to get out of harm's way. Later in the evening, just very recently, actually, they've released another statement saying that the president was reacting to basically falsehoods. He doesn't believe the media is covering it correctly, that the study that proclaimed that there were 3,000 deaths was not as accurate as some other studies that have suggested that there were fewer. So, you know, they have responded somewhat recently with that statement, but it doesn't erase what the president tweeted this morning.
And I just want to switch topics to another big debate there in the nation's capital. The Senate Judiciary Committee has now delayed a vote on Judge Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination to next week. And on Thursday, California Senator Dianne Feinstein released the following statement, quote, I have received information from an individual concerning the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. That individual strongly requested confidentiality, declined to come forward or press the matter further, and I have honored that decision. I have, however, referred the matter to federal investigative authorities. Jeff, what more do we know about this?
Well, not very much, and it is certainly interesting that that statement came out and that this is being delayed to the next week, as you said. You know, the Democrats have been trying very hard to stall or to stop the progress on Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. They've gone through lots of attempts, really, to question him during the hearings and also to mobilize supporters against his nomination because of what it means for the Supreme Court and what it means for progressives who are very concerned about the court moving even further to the right if he is confirmed as a justice. That said, they don't probably have the votes to do that. This is another wrinkle in that, and we'll have to see what happens with that delay.
All right, Jeff Mason joining us from our Washington bureau. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.